You've got to keep winning these days. This morning I had my car covered in ice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, we park our cars outside, so both my wife and I was up early. My car was nice. Took me a while to get it off.
It's not my favorite temperature cold, but in our place it was pretty, but yeah, it gets like that.
Should have a bottle of water already. That's what I do every morning. I have a 2-liter bottle of water and I just run it all over the car because it's always icy. So I just throw it out easy.
So you have a bottle ready, you said?
Yeah, outside, at the front, where I park the car, in the front garden, I have a 2-liter bottle of water there because every morning we have to do it.
Oh, smart.
So
I think what we should just read. I'm just going to retitle this: "How to Take Care of an Icy Car in the Cold Morning."
Okay, yeah, let's learn. Yeah.
I gave it a different. All right. So our topic is harmful things to stay away from. I actually was supposed to be the topic of our last year, which we haven't had for 2 weeks because I was busy with camp, and 2 weeks ago I also had a training seminar. So let's get straight into it. It's a short but powerful little MIshna. We are learning MIshna Yud Aleph 11 from Pirkei Avot of chapter 2. Now, could you see my screen?
No, we see you.
Oh, I forgot to press share screen. All right. So, Omer Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua, remember, just going back a second, we're still talking now about the 5 grand students of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, right? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, one of the great leaders at the end of the Second Temple. And then he has these 5 tremendous students. These students are also colleagues of Rabbi Akiva. So the first one we spoke about last week was Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkanus. This week we talked about the second one, Rabbi Yeshua. Now, Rabbi Yeshua, fascinatingly enough, is considered one of the great defenders of the Jewish people throughout history. If you recall, last time we learned, I mentioned the story of Rabbi Eliezer's downfall, so to speak, where he was thrown out of the study hall, and the person that was the most the person that he was mainly voicing their opinion against him was Rabbi Yeshua. And the reason for that is Rabbi Yeshua was the Av Bet Din. So there was 2 leading authority figures. There was the Nasi, who was the head leader of the school, and that was Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel got that position because generally it was given by default to the descendant of Hillel. Hillel had made such an impression, and we saw even previously he was the teacher of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So Rabbi Gamliel becomes the leader. And in chapter 1, we said statements from Rabbi Gamliel. This one we went into the students more than the descendants. So Rabbi Gamliel is the Nasi. He gets the position through his father and his grandfather. By the way, Rabbi Gamliel actually lost that position for a short amount of time. This is that same era where Rabbi Yeshua and the other scholars said that Rabbi Gamliel had said something which he was disrespectful to Rabbi Yeshua. So the other scholars made him lose his position, and that's what we have the story in the Haggadah. Remember the story of the Haggadah of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, saying that I'm like a 70-year-old man, this 18-year-old kid says I'm like an 18. That was in this era. This is the same. This is known as the high time of Torah study in the Yavneh. When people want to talk about the highest period of time, this is you've got Rabbi Akiva, you've got Rabbi Yeshua, you've got Rabbi Gamliel, you've got Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Azar, like really the greatest minds all, and they've created an incredible yeshiva in Yavneh just after the destruction of the temple era. And of course, that's when the downfall of Rabbi Gamliel happens. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is appointed but we'll get that at a later stage. So that's this era, the man that had been spoken against at the time was Rabbi Yeshua. And Rabbi Yeshua, of course, is also the second in command when it comes to the study. He's known as the Av Bet Din. So when you have a court, you have a Av Bet Din. Even today in Melbourne, for example, the Av Bet Din is the head of the Bet Din. That would be considered Reb Motel Gutnik. Even though, of course, over here, our Bet Din is very limited. We only do divorces and conversions. So it's a very limited Bet Din, but nevertheless, Rabbi Gutnik is considered the Av Bet Din. And the rest are the Dayanim, the other judges. Okay, so Rabbi Yeshua was at the time the Av Bet Din of all of Jewry, second in command. He says, Rabbi Yeshua says, Ayin hara, an evil eye, the Yetzer hara, and an evil inclination, the sinat habriyot, and hatred of the creatures, motzin et ha'adam min ha'olam. They are what remove man from the world. That's the statement. Now, I'd just love to hear what any of you think about the statement. What do you think it is coming to teach us? Why? What does it mean? What is an evil eye? What's the Yetzer Hara, and why is hatred of creations? Why is that what takes man out of this world? What are your thoughts?
Be good, do good, and get involved.
Be good, do good, and get involved. Good. I like that. Be good. So let's start with one. What do you think the Ayin Hara concept is? What's the Ayin Hara concept?
David, you want to go first?
I have no idea what that is.
Ayin Hara is actually a very complicated
Evil eye.
An evil eye. So what did you say, Noach?
I think jealousy is one aspect of it.
Jealousy. Yeah.
It's to a part, to an extent.
Yeah. So evil eye, as you've said, it has numerous different ways of looking at it, of what it means. Have you ever seen those chamsas that people have? A lot of Sephardi people have, and that's supposed to protect you from the evil eye. Quite a controversial subject. Some people say that it's not such a Jewish idea, but nevertheless, it's something that is well practiced within Judaism. So I'm not exactly sure what the whole basis of the chamsa is. Some people say, the word chamsa itself is like an Arabic word. It's more like an Arabic tradition, and Jews somehow adopted it. But the Ayin Hara concept is a real concept. Ayin Hara is, there's a few elements of it. One element of the Ayin Hara.
Chamsa is just 5, by the way.
Sorry?
Chamsa just means 5.
Chamsa means 5. Yeah. 5 fingers. And therefore what?
So that's why they call it that. But I don't know the connection to how it stops the evil eye.
Yeah, I don't know if it maybe means to stop with your hand. I once listened to a class on it, and I can't remember the details. It was quite a few years ago. As in from a Jewish perspective. So the evil eye has numerous components to what it could mean. Normally we say that, I'll give you an example. A few months ago, or maybe it was more than maybe a year ago, a guy from our community says, I think somebody put an Ayin Hara on my child. Why does he say that? He says because he said something bad about my child. Like he said, like something bad's going to happen to my child. So some people consider that an Ayin Hara. That you look negatively at my child, or you look negatively at this, and it could cause negative things to happen. And to a certain degree, that is what the concept of Ayin Hara means. Ayin Hara means anything that is that potentially could be looked at negatively has the ability to cause negative repercussions. So it's, if you see bad can occur. That's the idea.
It only works if you believe in it. Otherwise.
Okay, so that's a very good point. The Rebbe writes in the Gerta Tshuva, in Gerta Kodesh, it says the concept of Ayin Hara is a real concept, but it's only if you actually believe in it. In other words, if you don't think about it, and if somebody says something, you don't make a big deal about it, it's meaningless. It only has its impact if people think about it. But if you don't, it doesn't have its impact. And therefore, the best treatment of the Ayin Hara is simply not to think about it. Don't let it bother you. So what it means is, first of all, the basic concept of what Rabbi Yeshua is trying to say is this. Ayin Hara, on a simple level, means don't look negatively at somebody else. Don't look judgingly or negatively or jealously. So why is it? Because let's say you see your friend driving down the road with a new Lamborghini, right? And you think, wow, how did he get the money for that? And you think, oh, he must be, he's the schnorrer down the road and he's driving a Lamborghini. So what are you doing? You're doing two negative things at the same time. First of all, you're causing negativity to fall upon him because you're looking negatively on that person. And also, as a result, the negativity comes back to yourself. And that's what we spoke about this in one of the previous classes, of how it always comes back to us. So when you think negatively about somebody else, then the negative impact of the simple understanding of Ayin Hara is that when you say, oh, does that person deserve it? Is he becoming of it? Why does he get to have that? So it causes a judgment upon that person. Subconsciously, you've caused judgment. You've put that person in judgment, so you've caused that judgment. But as a result, it also causes a judgment upon us. And that's why it's so important never to put negative jealousy or judgment and say, oh, I wish I had that. Or even to say in Jewish practice, throughout the ages, there was an idea that wealthy Jews try to hide their wealth. Not because they didn't want to give charity, like many people, but because they were worried about the evil eye. They didn't want to make people jealous. And by making people jealous, it's a sin. One of the 10 commandments is not to have jealousy, right? So you don't want to be the one that's causing the jealousy, but also not to flaunt your wealth or anything good that you have in front of other people, because by doing that, that can cause jealousy, and the jealousy could have a negative impact on the person that has what the person has, but more importantly, on the one that thinks negatively, it causes the negativity on them. Okay, so that's the most basic concept of what's the Ayin Hara. So what does it mean? It takes a person to leave this world. Because when a person sees bad in others or is jealous, they're never, ever satisfied with what they have and ultimately end up causing negativity to them. And it's all going to you'll see the three concepts that we talk about are all connected. How can we live wholesome and happy lives when we see evil and negativity in our fellows, or we see jealousy and we always want what the other person has? Right? This is, of course, one of the evils of social media. When people put up their best picture to make everybody else jealous, so to speak. I don't know if that's what their goal is, but they're trying to put up this facade of life's good for me. And we're well aware that it has no good, it doesn't help anybody. That jealousy, that feeling of, oh, I wish I had such a good relationship or nice house or car or whatever that other person is trying to show off, that jealousy certainly does not cause anybody else happiness, right? That's a really important point. So this whole concept of the evil eye, whether you believe in the evil eye or not, is one discussion. In other words, if you're worried about Ayin Hara and you don't believe that you don't think about it, the Rebbe would say, just don't think about it. Don't think, oh, I'm not causing an evil eye, it won't impact you. Yes, that's true. On the other hand, we should be consciously aware of our thoughts. Are we thinking negatively about other people? Are we being judgmental or jealous of other people because that could have a negative impact on them? but more importantly, it definitely has a negative impact on us. Okay, let's talk about the other one. Anybody want to say any comments on that or arguments, questions? David, no? All good? All right, let's go on the other one. The other one was Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara, of course, is a massive discussion because it's one of the fundamental concepts in Judaism that we have a good inclination and an evil inclination. And anybody that's learned any part of Chassidut, particularly Tanya, would know that before we even talk about our inclinations, we talk about that we have two souls. So what does it mean that an evil inclination moves a person from this world? It says evil inclination is when people do egotistic things, self-centered things for their own benefit, which is all about the self. So sometimes we do things, the Rebbe says, sometimes we do things that come from our animal souls, which could be beneficial to other people, which ultimately do benefit other people, but we may not be doing it from the best place. It could be coming from a negative place, but ultimately has good impacts. And we should be aware of that. But a Yetzer Hara means when we focus on our own ego, our own self-indulgence, our own pleasures, and we forget about the bigger picture. We forget about, so to speak, Hashem's greater perspective for the world, greater purpose within the world. That's the concept of an evil eye. Sorry, of the Yetzer Hara. There's so much more we could talk about the Yetzer Hara, but we'll get back to it in a minute. The next thing, which I want to tell you is also very connected, is Sinot Habriyot, hatred of others. This is like, we all know that having any type of hatred in your heart is not a healthy thing. But sometimes if somebody wrongs us, we think that it's justified or that it's good or that it's healthy or that, like, what else do you expect? But Rabbi Yeshua over here is saying, Sinat Habriyot Motziat Adam min ha'olam. If you want to stay grounded in this world and you want to be able to have a decent life, Motziat Adam min ha'olam, by the way, my understanding means it doesn't allow you to have a good and healthy life. That's basically what it means. You want to have a good, healthy life. Hatred in the heart is never a good thing. It causes a person to suffer more than the one that did the harm to them. So holding that concept of hatred, it's negatively. So the one thing that we started off is the evil eye, is where we see what others have, negativity in their belongings, in their relationships, in their families, and sometimes even in them. Sinot Habriyot is our actions and our feelings towards the actual person. That we actually have people that we harbor hatred to.
Sorry, I have to go.
No worries.
Sorry, אני מלמד היום.
See you.
Bye.
Bye, David.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thinking of
Hey, David. Okay, we'll continue. So, hatred of the fellow is the very. It's like, if you want to talk about pollution of the heart, right? A polluted heart, when we have feelings of, unfortunately, it happens a lot in relationships with the spouses. It could happen with siblings. Somebody's wronged us, people that suffer, and friends. It's one thing that we don't want to be, let's say, friends with somebody because we don't believe that they act appropriately or that they're nice. But actually harboring hatred is something which is never, ever good. And I always tell people when I hear them, I always tell the people that want to listen, I say, hey, Joe, welcome.
Hi, Joe.
Hello.
Long time no see.
Yep. Sorry, my volunteering finished very late, so I've only just managed to get here.
This is very good community. You, when Noah leaves, you join. It's like perfect timing.
Oh yes, it's
Comfortable with David over there. Now I have to. Okay, we're talking about the Pirkei Avot MIshna Yud Aleph of Perek Bet, and we're just talking about the three things that we have to avoid. And the third one we're up to is the concept of hatred. So it's an interesting concept. I was once listening to a talk from I think it was a survivor, a Holocaust survivor, that spoke about how they don't hate the Nazis. Why? Because they don't want the Nazis to take up any space in their heart. And therefore they're forgiven, not because they feel that those people have repented or anything like that. And I'm not saying it's a heavy topic whether people should be forgiving evildoers and things like that. But all people are victims of some type of abuse or terror or trauma, whatever it is.
My mother, who was a survivor, had a very simple motto. She said, forgive, but never forget.
That's right. Yeah. And what did she mean by that? What are we never forgetting?
Never forget the lesson that can happen to whatever it is. And in her case, it was, how humanity can become so damaged.
And why did she forgive?
Because exactly what she said. I mean, she didn't want to harbor any hatred or anything like that, and she passed that on to her kids very well. No one hates anybody in our family.
That's really powerful. That's exceptional, right?
I don't know what the term actually feels like.
Sorry, and you cut out.
No one. We've discussed it. No one even knows what that term feels like.
That's amazing. No, it really is. It's very, very healthy. Because as we know, when we forgiveness to a certain degree is sometimes more important for the person that was the victim, so to speak, in the case, than the actual abuser.
It's only about the victim.
That's right, because by that person finding it in their face to, I know some people don't want to forgive until they've been asked or somebody has actually expressed remorse and apologized. And there's truth to that, and there's fairness to that. But if we think about the damage that is caused by hatred, the one that causes the most damage is the one that is actually harboring that and has that feeling. There's a really powerful story I want to just tell you. There's this powerful story of, I think it was, I just can't remember exactly who the Rebbe was. It was one of these great Hasidic masters. It could have been the Chozeh of Lublin. And once somebody came to him and he was a chassid of this Rebbe, and he said that he's been married for many years, has not been successful in having children. So the chassid said, "Tell me something about your past. What do you tell about the past? Maybe there's something negativity around you." So he said, "No. I can't think of anything." He says, "Tell me something. Were you ever married? No. Any relationship? No." He says, "Were you ever engaged to somebody before?" He said, "No." "Have you ever made a promise to somebody that you didn't keep?" He said, "No." He said, think hard. He said, well, when we were kids, I grew up in the small town, and in that town, my neighbor, I was very good friends with the girl next door as little kids, and we played so much together. And one day we made a promise to each other. We were playing that we would marry each other, but then life went on. I went to yeshiva, I grew up, and I forgot about it. I haven't even thought about it since then. I married somebody else. He says, "Did you ever ask forgiveness from that your neighbor, the girl?" He said, "No, I never thought anything of it." He says, "Well, you made a promise, you should keep it, and you should go and ask forgiveness." So he traveled to his birth town, and while he's standing outside, it starts pouring, raining, and there's a whole bunch of people gather around under this covering outside. And he feels like a nudge next to him. Feels the nudge, and he sees the girl, the next door neighbor, now all grown up, standing next to him. And he says, wow, I can't believe that I see you over here. I've come just to see you. I've come to apologize. I've never apologized to you for what I did. So he says, she says, well, I appreciate it. Thank you. And yeah, it was very hurtful for me, but I forgive you. Anyway, he traveled all the way to this town. He moves on. They say goodbye. He thinks he'll go visit his old home, see what it looks like, what it's like. While he's there, he knocks on the neighbor's door of and who lives there now? The neighbor's the brother of that girl. He knocks on the door to say hello, ask him what's happening. Also an old friend. He says, oh, regards from your sister. I just saw your sister. He said, well, what are you talking about? Which sister? He says, the sister that I used to be good friends with as a little kid. He says, her. Oh, you don't know what happened to her. She passed away years ago. Really? I don't understand. I literally just saw her now. But I'll tell you what happened. She really wanted to marry you. Thought you'd one day come back to marry you. When she found out that you got engaged to somebody else, she went into a shock, and she never came out and died a short while later from the trauma, from the shock. And he then understood that his Rebbe had done a miracle that had allowed him to find a way to genuinely ask for forgiveness for what he had done, even though the person was no longer alive in this world. What that means, I don't know. Probably the soul came over here, or was it a figment of his imagination? I don't know. But at the end of the day, he did ask that girl for forgiveness. But and the story, he went back to his Rebbe. His Rebbe gave him a blessing, and a short while later, he was blessed with a child. So sometimes holding on to a grudge can have really negative impacts for all those that are affected by whatever reasons that can be caused. But it certainly is not a healthy thing. So just to recap what we've spoken about today, Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua was one of the great rabbis of the Mishnaic era, just post-temple era, great colleague of Rabbi Akiva and other many great sages. He was a very humble and soft-spoken man. He believed that even though he was one of the great sages of his time, he had to earn his own wages, and he was he made coals. He was so poor that the walls of his house were black from the coals that he made. He never had time or the money to paint them over. But he was a person that was very instrumental in helping us establish many of the oral laws that we have today in the post-temple era. Discussion for another time of his history. There's a few very interesting stories about him. Most interesting about him is that he was one of the great, as I mentioned before, the defenders of the Jewish people. He defended us with that story we spoke about last time from Rabbi Eliezer, but he also defended against many Greek philosophers and other sort of those type of things in the time. I don't know if it was literally Christians or but those type of groups that would come up, the Sadducees. And he was a great defender of the Jewish people, and everyone was afraid to debate him. When he was about to die and he had saved the Jews from all these debates, the rabbi said to him, who's going to defend us now? You've been the greatest defender of the Jewish people. And he said, when the defender, his words were, I'll look it up in a second, but his exact words were, when counsel is lost from the Jewish people, the wisdom of the idolaters decays. So in other words, if there's no one like me to defend, then don't worry, they won't be able to come up with good claims. But if they have wise people in the Gentiles, then there will always be within the Jewish people that can defend them. And that's been the story of our time. And ultimately telling us that we should never look negatively at people, not jealous, not be so egocentric, that's the Yetzer Hara, and thirdly, not harbor hatred to other people. Those were the powerful lessons of Rabbi Yeshua. Okay. Any other questions or points? Feel free. It's good to see everybody. We had a break for a couple of weeks.